Have you ever had one of those days where you barely got anything done, and yet somehow you still feel exhausted? You sit down to relax, but your brain won't stop moving. You scroll your phone without really enjoying it. You stare at a task for 10 minutes before starting. You keep thinking about everything you should be doing, and by the end of the day, you feel guilty because it looks like you weren't productive. The strange part is, sometimes the problem isn't laziness. Sometimes the problem is mental exhaustion. And a lot of people spend years calling themselves unproductive when they're actually running on an emotionally drained nervous system. Because mental exhaustion is sneaky. It doesn't always look like collapsing from stress. Sometimes it looks like procrastination. Sometimes it looks like avoidance. Sometimes it looks like staring at a simple task and feeling weirdly overwhelmed by it. And this is where it gets psychologically interesting. Most people assume productivity problems come from a lack of motivation. But often, your brain isn't refusing to work. It's struggling to carry the weight it's already carrying. Think about the last time you felt completely overwhelmed, not because one huge disaster happened, but because dozens of tiny things were sitting in your head at the same time. Messages you still need to answer, conversations you're still replaying, decisions you're avoiding, problems you're trying to solve, responsibilities you haven't forgotten. Your brain keeps holding all of it quietly in the background, and eventually that invisible mental load starts consuming energy. One of the biggest signs you're mentally exhausted is that simple tasks start feeling strangely difficult. Things you know how to do suddenly feel heavier than they should. Replying to a text, answering an email, cleaning your room, making a phone call. None of these things are objectively difficult, but your brain reacts as if they require far more effort than they actually do. And here's what most people miss. When your mind is overloaded, every new task feels like adding weight to a backpack that's already full. The task isn't the problem. The accumulated mental weight is. Another sign is that rest stops feeling restorative. You finally get free time. Nobody needs anything from you. The day becomes quiet, but instead of feeling refreshed, you feel restless. You open one app, then another, then another. You keep looking for stimulation even though you're exhausted, and the reason is surprisingly psychological. A mentally exhausted brain often struggles with stillness, because the moment everything becomes quiet, all the thoughts you've been avoiding suddenly become easier to hear. So instead of resting, you distract yourself, not because you want to, because your brain is trying to escape the pressure it hasn't processed yet. And honestly, this is why some people can spend hours doing nothing and still feel tired afterward. Their body rested. Their mind never did. Another sign is that you start confusing exhaustion with failure. You tell yourself you're lazy, undisciplined, unmotivated, behind everyone else. Meanwhile, your nervous system is quietly carrying emotional stress it hasn't recovered from. Maybe you've been worrying constantly. Maybe you've been managing everyone's emotions. Maybe you've been overthinking every conversation. Maybe you've been pretending you're okay for longer than you realize. And eventually, that emotional effort starts costing energy. But because emotional work is invisible, people rarely count it. They only notice the tasks they didn't finish, and that creates a painful cycle. The more exhausted you become, the more you criticize yourself. The more you criticize yourself, the more exhausted you become. And eventually you start believing something is wrong with you, when in reality your brain might simply be tired. Another huge sign is that your attention feels fragmented. You sit down to focus, then suddenly you're checking your phone, opening another tab, thinking about something unrelated, remembering a conversation from 3 days ago, then forgetting what you were doing in the first place. And it can feel incredibly frustrating. But often, attention problems are not always attention problems. Sometimes they're energy problems. Your brain prioritizes survival before focus. And when it feels mentally overloaded, concentration becomes harder because your nervous system is constantly pulling resources towards stress, worry, and emotional processing. This is also why mentally exhausted people often struggle to make decisions, even small ones. What should I eat? What should I watch? Should I reply now or later? What should I do first? Tiny choices suddenly feel annoying, not because they're difficult, because decision-making requires mental energy. And when your energy reserves are already low, even ordinary choices can feel overwhelming. Let me show you something subtle. One of the clearest signs of mental exhaustion is emotional numbness. Most people expect exhaustion to feel dramatic, but often it feels strangely quiet. You stop feeling excited about things you normally enjoy. You stop looking forward to things. You feel disconnected from your own emotions. Not deeply sad, not deeply happy. Just emotionally flat. And that feeling can be confusing. Because from the outside, your life may look completely normal. But internally, your mind has been working overtime for so long that it starts conserving energy wherever it can, including emotional energy. And this is where many people misunderstand themselves completely. They think they've become lazy. They think they've lost ambition. They think they've become a worse version of themselves. But often they're simply depleted. The brain is not a machine. It cannot stay emotionally overloaded forever without consequences. Eventually, something slows down. Focus slows down. Motivation slows down. Creativity slows down. Energy slows down. And when that happens, people often blame their character instead of recognizing their exhaustion. Another sign is that you constantly feel behind. No matter how much you do, you finish one task and immediately think about the next. You solve one problem and immediately notice another. You achieve something and barely let yourself enjoy it. Because mentally exhausted brains often become trapped in a state of perpetual catching up. There's always something else waiting, something unfinished, something missing, something you should be doing. And eventually, the feeling of pressure becomes so constant that it starts feeling normal. You stop questioning it. You simply carry it everywhere. And honestly, I think this is why so many people secretly feel exhausted even when they can't explain why. Because exhaustion doesn't always come from working too hard. Sometimes it comes from thinking too hard, worrying too hard, monitoring too much, carrying too much internally. The mind was never designed to operate under constant pressure indefinitely, and eventually it asks for relief. Not through words, through fatigue, through avoidance, through distraction, through emotional numbness, through the strange feeling that everything suddenly requires more effort than it should. But here's the hopeful part. Mental exhaustion is not a personality trait. It's not proof that you're lazy. It's not proof that you're weak. And it's not proof that you've failed somehow. It's information. Your brain is communicating something. It's telling you that the load it's carrying may be heavier than you realize. And once you stop treating exhaustion as a character flaw, something important changes. You stop fighting yourself. You start listening to yourself. Because healing rarely begins with becoming more productive. Sometimes it begins with understanding why productivity became difficult in the first place. And maybe that's the perspective shift most people need. You don't always need more discipline. Sometimes you need recovery. You don't always need more pressure. Sometimes you need relief. You don't always need to push harder. Sometimes you need to recognize how hard you've already been pushing. And if you recognized yourself somewhere in this video, especially the feeling of being mentally tired while blaming yourself for it, I hope you remember something important. Exhaustion and laziness are not the same thing. A tired brain often looks unproductive from the outside, but internally, it's been working far harder than anyone can see. So the next time you find yourself wondering why everything feels difficult lately, pause for a second and ask yourself honestly, am I actually lazy or am I simply exhausted? Because those are not always the same thing. And if this kind of psychology content helps you understand your mind a little more clearly and makes you feel a little less alone in the invisible struggles most people never talk about, subscribe to Psyche Simplified. New videos every week, exploring the hidden emotional patterns behind overthinking, emotional exhaustion, relationships, loneliness, and the psychology of the human mind.